Hi, everybody. This is Mark Fisher and Janis Gillham Grady, and our channel is Our Scientology Stories Peeling the Onion, and this is our holiday video. How you doing, Janis? Happy holidays.
G'day, Mark. G'day, everyone. I'm doing good. It's an exciting season. Having grown up in Scientology, we still celebrated Christmas, and to this day, we still do. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. And you're going to spend time with your family, right, over the Christmas holidays?
Yeah, I'm actually going to California to spend time with my brother, and my sister's going with me, my granddaughter and daughter. So we will have fun with my brother and his family. They're coming with his grandkids. So it'll be a nice gathering. We haven't done that in a couple of years. So it'll be fun. And then we're going to go to some friends in LA and spend Christmas Day with them.
Well, that's great. I'm going to miss out on your bacon wrapped turkey because you're not going to have Christmas dinner. We usually get together with Janis. She doesn't have to cook this year.
Well, I told the people we're staying with it. We were talking about it last night, and I said, no, don't worry. I'll cook, and Aaron will help me cook. I'm used to it. So we'll see.
And I'm going to spend Christmas. I'm going to with my mom, and then also with some friends of ours. They're going to be cooking a turkey on Christmas Day and all that. So I'll have dinner over there. And you know, my favorite thing about Christmas is spending time at our age, my age. My favorite thing is just spending time with family and friends and having a good meal and having a good talk. You know, and just enjoying being together. That to me is more important than any presents or gifts or anything like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. It should be about friends, not gifts, you know. And if you're disconnected, you should be reconnecting with old friends. You know, bury those wounds and put that aside and just move forward in life and look forward to the greatness of having reconnected with people, friends and family.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, what we wanted to talk about with our viewers is we're going to talk about what was Christmas like in Scientology and in the Sea Organization. You know, we're going to tell some stories regarding that. I was going to start. Let's start when we were kids, when we were young. What was Christmas like for you, Janis, in Australia when you were in Australia? Because you didn't go to England until you were older. But what was Christmas like for you as a young child?
Well, first off, we never said Merry Christmas. We said Happy Christmas. And so that was a switch when I was older. I'm like, oh, okay, Americans say Merry, and in Australia we say Happy. Okay, they mean the same thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, Christmas to us was Christmas. We got gifts as kids, and we were like any other normal kid who would. Parents weren't home, you go sneak into their bedroom and you start looking for your gifts. And
no, not in my household.
Oh, we did in mine. And being the youngest, you know, I still believed in Santa Claus, of course, but for some reason, I didn't understand why there were gifts in the parents' closet, but my brother or sister would pull them out and we'd look at them. And then I remember when I was 9, my mom had gone to England, so Dad was stuck in Australia with 3 kids, and it was Christmas time. And my sister and I had gotten in a big fight, and we were in the same bedroom. So I went and I got Dad's okay to sleep under the Christmas tree so that I could be there when Santa arrived. And so I go and I set up a little bed under the tree. No gifts or anything have shown up yet. And then Terry comes in. I'm like, you're supposed to be in your room. I got Dad's permission. We're fighting, you know. She sneaks in anyway, no longer mad at me because she wants to sleep under the tree with me. So anyway, the Santa showed up during the night. And, you know, when we woke up, there were all the presents. But so Dad did a good job without Mom being there.
Now, there's another major difference about Christmas where you are from in Australia, right?
Yeah. We got to get bikes and warm clothes and toys for outside because it was summertime. And I remember, you know, Mom would get all these cards, these Christmas cards. And she'd put strings across the living room and hang all the cards. And I mean, there was like strings going back and forth and all these cards. And I was like, why do these cards have snow on them? You know, they should be sunny and flowers. And, you know, I hadn't realized until we went to England and the world became more real to me, that rather than just Australia, that, oh, there's winter with snow. In Australia, we always had to go to the mountains to get snow. And that was in June, July. That wasn't at Christmas time. No, Christmas
Right.
had a bike. You went outside and you rode that bike, or you got roller skates, you know, the old roller skates with the key.
Yeah.
So
well, that's the
those
same.
things,
Go ahead.
no, those were things that we used to get for Christmas, was bike or roller skates.
Now, I had a similar experience because when I was a young kid, we lived in California, right? So we didn't see snow either. And then we lived in Hawaii, and so in Hawaii, it was like, it wasn't uncommon for people to go to the beach on Christmas Day. Now, we never did that, but you know, that's just the warmer weather, you know. But what I did like was when we moved to the East Coast in Washington, D.C. and Virginia. I liked it when it got cold, because sometimes we had a couple of white Christmases where it snowed, and it made it all the more fun. My parents were really middle class. They weren't well off or anything like that. My dad was in the Navy, and so my mom was a housewife the whole time. So we had one person earning a living. And looking back, we always had great Christmases. I mean, literally, we got great gifts. And, you know, we followed the, you know, Santa Claus is coming tonight, and we didn't really ask any questions. And we were locked into our rooms until we woke up our parents. I mean, and this is all the way up until I was like a young teenager, you know, because we just wanted to keep the tradition and keep it fun. And of course, our parents wanted to sleep in and we wanted to get up. But anyway, we would have to close our eyes and walk into the living room. The doors would be closed. And when we would walk in there would be, like you said, like bicycles, or one year I got a sled, like a snow sled. And that was my favorite gift of all time. So there'd be some presents out, quote unquote, from Santa Claus, but then we also had wrapped up gifts underneath our tree. And then it was always the big fight over whether or not, you know, some families, they open their gifts on Christmas Eve. That wasn't our tradition. We opened them Christmas morning. But the other thing too was some families just let everybody go crazy and just start opening up all the presents, and we wanted to savor it. So my dad would put on some Christmas music. My mom would get some coffee for them, you know, and then here comes the Danish and donuts. And then we had to, one by one, take turns opening up a present. We got to pick which one we wanted to open. And that's how we did Christmas. And we got great things. I mean, like I said, like bicycles and sleds. One year we each got a black and white television for our room, like a little portable television set. And it was, you know, we always got clothes and things like that. And we got stuff from our different relatives and all. But looking back, I was thinking, wow, how did we afford that? And then years later, you know, I started buying toys for toy drives for Toys for Tots here in Las Vegas. And you could buy a lot of toys even today for $100. And I can imagine what you could buy for $100, you know, back in the 60s. You could probably buy quite a lot of stuff. So really, I mean, it was the big time of the year, and that's when we got things. So that's what I remember about Christmas.
Well, now that you brought it up on running in and waking up the parents, mine slept in too. And I remember the three of us would go in and get in the middle of them, and it would be feet on dad and hands on mom, and we would push them both out of the bed so that we could go and open presents. And they were great on go in and open the presents, and, you know, forget breakfast. But, you know, when I was married to Paul and we were raising the kids, oh no, you had to have breakfast first before you sat down and open one gift at a time.
Yeah. And the kids are probably hated it. Yeah.
Yeah, or we'd have to wait until Aaron woke up, and John would be all excited. And finally Aaron gets up, you know, and then they could open their presents.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. Every family's got different traditions regarding that. Now, let me ask you. We also, you know, we weren't when we were young kids, my parents were both in the Methodist church. So Christmas Eve, we would go to a Christmas Eve service. That was usually what we would do. And then, like I said, then Christmas Day, it was just our day to have fun and play with our gifts and stuff like that. Now, what was it like once you went to England, and then when you got on the Apollo? What was it like once you got, because you were in Scientology, obviously, when you were in Australia, but like, was
Yeah.
it different when you got to England and then when you got on the flagship Apollo with Hubbard?
Yeah, it was different. Well, before I had family with me in England, the first year we had family. It was mom and dad and us kids, but there was no money, so we really didn't get anything. But that was okay. You know, we had snow. That was exciting. That was the first time I'd watched snow fall down. You know, and then the next year, mom was in the Sea Org, so it was just dad. And again, there was really no Christmas. You know, dad did what he could. But then going to the Sea Org, that's when I started hearing about Kris Kringle and people putting names in a hat and drawing it out, and you buy a gift for $10, and they're not supposed to know who the gift's from. So
Right.
that's what they did on the Apollo, and we did that every year.
Yeah,
But
it continued for years. Yeah, that was a tradition that we did in the Sea Org.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was interesting because I think back, and what people are celebrating Christmas for is they're celebrating the birth of Jesus. And having been raised as a Scientologist, Jesus was not a discussion point, and
Right.
prayer, and saying and giving thanks before meals. That was not done at our house because we were not religious. Though my mother was raised a Christian and my dad, and we'd go to friends' houses and we would, say a prayer before eating. That was not how it was in our house. And I'll tell you, in Australia, we didn't have any sort of religious education. And when I went to the ship and people would sing Christmas songs, I found I really didn't know them.
Yeah.
I might know Jingle Bells, but I'd know the first verse. I wouldn't know anything else. On a sleigh, really? Well, I don't know that verse.
Sleigh Ride, yeah, and all that, yeah. The 12 Days of Christmas, all these different songs. Little Drummer Boy,
Those
what's that
songs,
about? Yeah.
I didn't know any of them, and because I'd never, as a kid, we did do a Christmas show. I remember doing it when I was 6 years old in grade 1, and I was a little angel, and I remember my wings falling off in the middle of the performance, and I was crying because I'd lost my wings. But I don't remember doing any other Christmas performances and then those little displays, the
Nativities. Yeah, nativity.
nativities. I didn't know what that was. I only learned that after I left the Sea Org, and I'd take my daughter for singing. She was part of a singing group, and they would do performances at Christmas. And that's when I'm sitting there. Oh, I didn't know that verse of that song, or, oh, I didn't know what this is. And when I went to England, I just turned 10. And in England, it was standard. Everyone did religious education at the Church of England. And
Right.
the only people who didn't were like the Catholics or the Jews, they didn't do it. But in my school, everyone except for me were Christians. And so religious education was part of the actual schooling. I arrive halfway through 5th grade, and I have to take the end of the year exam. I couldn't answer any of the questions. I ended up with an F because I just didn't know.
Right.
And so then when I went to 6th grade, okay, I knew a little better. So I did better on the end of the year test, but there was just so much that was missing. And to me, okay, Christmas was a time of giving and receiving. It wasn't a gift of, celebrating someone's birth. It just wasn't there.
Right.
So
No, and I completely agree with you. I mean, that's one of the things that, we're doing the show and look at to me, Christmas, if you're a Christian, it's very, very religious, the birth of Jesus Christ. And that's very, religious and all that. But for most other, people in the world, Christmas is really a time of family and friendship and gift giving and fellowship where you acknowledging each other. And that's how it was, kind of like you mentioned when you mentioned learning the religious aspect of the, when you were in England and stuff, not of Scientology, but of just, Christianity and things like that. I mean, I went to Sunday school until I got into Scientology, and I drifted away and then got into Scientology. But I don't know if you ever had to do this, but if you were if you were an auditor or somebody who delivered Scientology processes, it came a point where you had to do the minister's course in Scientology, and you had to become an ordained minister in the Church of Scientology. And I did that. And one of the requirements on the minister's course is you studied a book that covered all the great religions and their basics and things like that. And then once you were ordained, I mean, I presided over 2 weddings when I was in Scientology as a reverend, and it was wild. Did you ever have to do anything like that?
yeah, I did have to do the minister's course, and it was interesting because when I was doing that course, it hit me where I remembered when we were driving down the road one day in Australia, and there was this church with a strange star in front of it, and they were celebrating something. And I asked my mom, I said, it looks like a Christmas celebration, but it's not Christmas. And that's when Mom said, well, those are a different religion. They're Jewish. And I never thought of it again. And then when I'm doing the minister's course, I suddenly go, oh, that was Hanukkah.
Yeah.
But that's when I was 16 years old when that kind of clicked to me.
Yeah. And really the whole thing of becoming a minister was really a public relations deal for Scientology, basically, because they wanted to be recognized as a religion. And we've got all these people and they're ministers of the Church of Scientology, and it provided protection legally and otherwise and all that. But you could do all sorts of ceremonies. There was a book of ceremonies for Scientology for births and for christenings and for weddings and all that. And like I said, I presided over 2 weddings, including one in Hawaii. And it was something that we did. The other thing I wanted to mention, Scientology, because they don't believe in Jesus Christ or Christianity, even though they say, oh, we welcome people of all religions. You can practice whatever you want. That's actually not true. The only other big thing that they do each year is they have their Winter Wonderland in Hollywood Boulevard next to the Hollywood Inn. And then I think also in Clearwater, they do something like that too. And they do that every year, and they participate in the Hollywood Christmas Parade. And it's all just a big public relations, front, to gain acceptability, with or in safe points with local leaders and individuals.
Well, yeah, they've always supposed to have done things to get involved in the community, and I think that's the only thing they do to get involved in the community and help the community, and that doesn't even help the community.
Exactly. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, that what was a big thing for me, because when I joined the Sea organization, I first was in Clearwater at the Fort Harrison Hotel, and I was the LRH communicator for the Estates organization. And Christmas in Clearwater at the Fort Harrison was a big deal. We were getting public into the Fort Harrison to stay for Christmas and New Year's. So we put on huge parties for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then also New Year's Eve. And it was a tradition. Like Christmas Eve was what they called the bosun's party. And I know you're going to tell the story about the bosun's party on the ship.
Right.
But we basically had a party, and it was a dance, and we would bring in musicians and Scientology celebrities to perform in the auditorium at the Fort Harrison. And then Christmas Day was a huge buffet. I mean, Mick Davies, who was the commanding officer, we spent tons of money, and there was a huge buffet for not only the public, but also for the staff. And we actually got Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off. There was no work except for a skeletal crew to take care of any functions at the hotel. And so it was a big time. It was a big party. There'd be dancing and all that. and then New Year's Eve was a separate party. It was this thing, but it was a big deal. And as far as entertainment goes, we used to hire Ron Miscavige, David Miscavige's father, and Ron Moss, Elizabeth Moss's father, and they were musicians. And then they would put together kind of an all-star band that would perform at the Fort Harrison for the Bosun's party, the Christmas party, and the New Year's party. They'd be there for the whole week, and we would pay them. And we had fantastic parties. It was just really great.
Yeah. Well, on the ship, every Christmas, Mary Sue and Hubbard, L. Ron Hubbard, LRH, back at St. Hill, actually, they would pay for a beer and cheese party for the staff in every org. And it was the LRH communicator's job in that organization to arrange to get the money and pay for the beer and cheese and get it all set up and let the staff, socialize and that type of thing. And then on the ship, I remember Christmas in '68, there was a Christmas Eve, there was a beer and cheese party. And that's when the bosun was like, this is boring. And so he then set up a party in hold 1, and he cleared everything out. And there was 2 levels to hold 1. There was upper hold 1 and lower. So on the upper hold 1, the cover to the lower hold 1 became the dance floor, and music was set up, and people just the in crowd was invited and went down there to the bosun's party with the music blaring, and people would hear it and start leaving the beer and cheese party and went to the bosun's party. And that's how that started. So every Christmas Eve was the bosun's party. And each year it got bigger and bigger. And then it was a standard thing, a bosun's party every Christmas Eve. And then Christmas Day, you had a nice dinner and that type of thing. And they even, I remember when we finally got to the Caribbean in Nassau, someone even put up a pirate's plank, so that people would walk the plank as part of the drunken silliness that was going on.
With the Apollo stars or the musicians on the Apollo, would they perform or anything like that for any of the parties, or was it just playing records and things like that?
No. Well, it's mostly records of dance music. The Apollo stars did not play music that you could really dance to.
Right.
So there were parties that they performed at, and even my sister's wedding they performed, and they did other songs besides their usual ones. But I personally preferred records.
Yeah.
Even the Archies singing Sugar Sugar was better than.
I know what you mean. Sometimes you can't dance to live music so much as you can records. And, same thing at the parties in Clearwater, the bands would perform, but then the DJ would start playing music, like you said, like the Bee Gees, because this is Saturday Night Fever time for me. And then the whole dance floor would fill up with all the crew and the public, and we would just dance. We'd have a great time. Now, there was another thing about the Christmas parties, and at least in Clearwater when I was in the Sea Organization, and then I guess later when we were at the international base, is that if you were single, that was the time that you could try and make a move to try and find, somebody who was going to be either your boyfriend or your girlfriend, right? Right. Because you didn't have time on post. There was no time to really do anything or go out. So, it was a major, try and find who, somebody that you might be interested in you and having fun with them,
Yeah. Well, on the ship, there were people, the singles that hooked up, and there were some where the couples might end up breaking up over someone having an affair. But it got really bad in '75 Christmas because it was our first Christmas on land. And kind of everyone had felt some of the restrictions had come off. And I've mentioned this, we've talked about this before, where there were like about 60 couples that all slept together that hadn't been together before that night.
Right. It was kind of got out of control.
Yeah. And some had been married to other people. And then you're talking public people were involved sleeping with some staff, Sea Org members. So that was the big no-no. And that's what got the guys who slept with people who were outer org students or public that were there for auditing. They're the ones who ended up becoming the pot washers and getting busted to the galley. And with, if it was crew and crew who ended up sleeping together, some just did conditions or whatever, but they were pretty much left alone. It was the crossing the line of a Sea Org member sleeping with an outer org student or a public person.
Yeah, and I think that's around the time period that the Out 2D rules flag order came out, if I'm not mistaken. It was around that time of defining it and stuff. Julie was actually wrote it. Julie, my ex-wife, Julie, for L. Ron Hubbard. But it was around that time. And that's why I'm saying I came to the base after all that happened. So when we had our Christmas parties and all that, they were purely platonic, because in those days, if you went quote unquote out 2D, you ended up in the RPF doing rehabilitation project force. People didn't want to do that, but you at least could have a good time and find out if somebody was interested in you and all that. That was kind of the positive things about it. Now I want to mention another thing too that I know you're aware of, is that when you were a Commodore's messenger and you worked for L. Ron Hubbard, and then later when I went to the international base and I worked, as a Commodore's messenger, and then also for Miscavige and Hubbard and all that. When Hubbard was still alive, you would be asked for a wish list. He had a public relations officer, L. Ron Hubbard did. Her name was Janine Boyd. And you would do a wish list. And then on Christmas Day, you would get gifts from L. Ron Hubbard off of your wish list, right?
Yeah. Well, at first, our gifts, well, back on the ship, like in '68, my Christmas gift, I got a little heart necklace with my initials on the front, and on the back it said Ron. And Annie and Terry and I think Suzette, all four of us got the same thing. It's just a little necklace. And then the next year, I got a necklace with a maple leaf on it. And then, so usually for Christmas, we got pieces of jewelry, which also continued during the time period that Kimma Douglas was in charge of the household unit. She always would go to a jeweler and get jewelry for the messengers. But then later, when Janine took over, I guess she didn't have the connection Kimma had on the good jewelry deals. So yeah, you do up a list. And I remember I got skis and ski poles and ski boots.
I got a 3-piece suit. I got cowboy boots. I got ski stuff one year. No, I know they were fabulous gifts for somebody who was working at that time. We were working for $17.20 a week, no bonuses. I mean, these were huge gifts for us, right?
Oh yeah, and it was great. I didn't have to pay my paycheck plus last week's to go skiing. I didn't have to rent any ski equipment. I had my own. So,
and then there was another part of that too, which was that Christmas time. Also, we would get Christmas bonuses, right? I mean, not every year, but we would get for somebody that's making peanuts, right? If you got a $500 Christmas bonus, that was a lot of money. And all the crew would get whatever the bonus was. It'd be a Christmas bonus of some sort. And then we would get half a day off to go shopping. Remember, we'd be allowed to go, there'd be shuttles to the mall or whatever to buy presents for your Kris Kringle, your mystery or hidden Santa or whatever it was. And also presents for your spouse or whoever. And, like I said, these were all pleasure moments for us at the time. We were working for a cult and all that, but we're talking about things that were really, really pleasant for us at that time, right?
Yeah, and that actually, talking about the half a day off to go Christmas shopping, in I guess it was Christmas '89, Annie Broker, she had she'd gotten busted and gone through the RPF, and now she was off the RPF, but she didn't know anybody at the base. And Paul was in the RPF. So Annie and I used to hang out together. And I was like, hey, Annie, let's go Christmas shopping together. So we got a car and we drove from Hemet over to Palm Springs to go Christmas shopping. Mm-hmm. And she kept saying she didn't have a lot of money. She was waiting for Maria Starkey to sell some jewelry LRH had given her, her fur coat that LRH had given her car that LRH had given her. She had to apparently have this all sold off because DM didn't want her to have it and felt she didn't deserve it. So anyway, there's Annie with hardly any money, wishing Maria would get some of the stuff sold so that she could have some money. And what little money she had, she was like, I got to find something for Dave. And I'm like, why are you buying a gift for Dave? Oh, well, he saved my life, you know, so I really
David Miscavige.
David Miscavige. And I'm thinking, whoa, you know, she's really gone on a skid to have that kind of an attitude towards Dave, that he was her savior. And I'm there as kind of with my disaffected thoughts going through my head about how he just doesn't know what he's doing half the time. So anyway, she finally found some gift and spent like $100 on him, which, you know, when you have no money, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of just jumps out at me as strange.
Yeah. The other thing that we did at the international base, so really when it started when Hubbard was still alive and then continued afterwards, is we would go, one year we went up to Big Bear in California, and we would, they would rent like a condominiums for us to stay up there. And I think you did that one year with Paul and DM, like just a small handful of people one year. But then the next year, it was for the whole base. Like literally we had the bosun's party up there. We had the Christmas dinner up there. And we all had condominiums that we shared. And we went skiing, right? Am I right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The first year it started, it was Dave and Shelley, Paul and I, Ray and Gelda, Mark and Michelle, and Vicky and Rick Asnaran. Mark and Michelle Yeager. Yeah, we took one of the vans and drove it up there. And I remember it was so foggy that I don't remember who was driving, but we had the van door open. So we're looking out to make sure they don't drive us off the side of the cliff, you know, because you couldn't see hardly in front of you. So we were given directions hanging out the door.
Yeah, it's a windy road up there. It's a windy road up to Big Bear. Yeah.
And Loretta, Dave's mother, came with us that year. And that was when they got in an argument because she wouldn't call Dave sir. And then Dave was driving, because then he pulls off at a restaurant and says, we'll be back. And he says, come on, Loretta. And takes her to a restaurant. Loretta? Yeah, he calls her Loretta. He didn't call her mom. And he was having an issue that she wouldn't call him sir. She just kept calling him Dave. Behind his back, she used to call him Little Hitler.
Right.
So anyway, Dave then takes his mother off to the side into a restaurant, giving her an earful. And she didn't budge. She held on. And then finally he came back with her. But we'd all sitting in there, who's going to win this fight? We should have put bets on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the start of then going up to Big Bear and everyone skiing and just hanging out the whole weekend.
Yeah, we had fun. What we would do, my ex-wife Julie and I, you know, because we shared a condo usually with somebody else, we would go skiing in the morning, and I would be wiped out by noon. And then some people like to ski all day and all night. And then we would go to the condo and we watched movies on videotape, because we never got to see movies. And this is the days of videotapes, not DVRs or you know, Netflix or anything like that. And then we would have a really great meal, and then we'd go home. And it was like, it was a big pleasure moment for us, because it was the only time really that we got to spend time together, all of us together, and have fun. And I just remember you did not want to be in lower conditions going into Christmas Eve and Christmas, because you then had to stay at the Gold Base and continue working. I remember one year Liz Ingber was in lower conditions, and she couldn't go to the dinner. She couldn't do anything. And I just felt so sorry for her and for the other people who couldn't do it. So, you know, the whole idea was, you know, everybody do well and nobody would have to stay. But of course that didn't always happen.
Well, you know, as you're bringing this up, Mark, I'm thinking, I should have pulled out my photos. I have photos of people up at Big Bear. I have a photo of you and Julie on the chairlift in front of me.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I have a photo when John Fisher was the LRHPR, and a whole bunch of us messengers sitting around opening gifts. So I'll have to pull those out, and maybe you can figure out how to display them.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We could put them up on
Yeah.
the community page or whatever. But yeah, no, that's a great thing. But anyway, I just wanted to tell those stories because from what we understand, after we left, it got a lot worse, and people didn't get time off, and people didn't get to go to Big Bear anymore, and all this stuff. So we're talking about things. At the time, they meant a lot to us because we were working hard, and we barely had any time off or time together, and they were fun, and we got some
Yeah.
great gifts and all that. But okay, so then after you left, of course, you didn't have
Oh, wait a minute!
right away.
Before I left, the 2 Christmases before I left, were a lot of fun. Where this is where I started learning on the first day of Christmas. Because we were all sitting around, and there was a show being put on or something like that, and people started singing Christmas carols, and Jaeger, I think, was up front, and he would stand up, on the first day of Christmas, and then sit down, and then I thought, oh, okay, and so the next time he stood up, I stood up with him. And then it got into a thing where everyone started standing. Oh, I think it was on the 5th day of Christmas.
5 golden rings or something like that.
Yeah,
5 golden rings.
Yeah, so I started standing up with Jaeger, and then it was like everyone finally started on the 5th day of Christmas. Everyone would stand up and sing it. But
you reminded me of it. Yeah, you remind me of another story. One Christmas when we were up there, towards the end, it actually was snowing really hard when we got up there on Christmas Eve. And I was driving Mark Yeager's van. Do you remember Mark Yeager's van that he had? It was like a minivan that he had converted so he could work in the back when he drove back and forth to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I was, we were staying at the condo and with some friends and all that, and so we were driving that van, and the condo was up a slope, right, to get there. So we're going like, oh, we need to put chains on the tires, or we're never going to get up that slope, right? So we put chains on the tires, on the back tires, and we kept trying, and we could not get up. And then somebody finally said, oh, it's a front wheel drive car. Man, you got to put the chains on the front.
Oh, dear.
I felt so stupid. So we took off the chains, put them on the front, and then we could go up to the condo.
I drove once at Big Bear, and I think it was the year Paul must have been in the RPF, and I was in the Mustang, and I remember sliding around in that parking lot on the ice, and I swore I am never driving in snow again, and I haven't.
Yeah, it's something else, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll take Las Vegas weather.
So then you leave, and then you have small children. And how did that compare once you had small children? How did you guys have Christmas in relationship to how you had it in the past with your family and also in the New York?
Well, it was very quiet because there was just, the first Christmas, it was Paul and I, Terry and Fernando, and you.
Right. I think we went to a buffet or something.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was the second Christmas, because the first Christmas when I got out, because I got out in August, that first Christmas, we went to my dad's. He was still in Scientology in good standing. Nobody else, he didn't tell other people, but my brother, my sister, Paul and I, my brother with his kids, and I was pregnant at the time. We all went to my dad's and had our first family Christmas together.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Since, being in the Sea Org all those years, we hadn't done that. So
that's great.
In 22 years, we had not done a family Christmas. So we were able to do that. And actually, no, there was one time we did a family Christmas, because in 1979, my brother, his wife Doreen, my sister and Fernando, and myself went to Australia with my dad and Kay Gonsolin, who was his girlfriend at the time, and we had a Christmas with our cousins and our grandmother during I took a 4-week leave. So that was special too as well.
Yeah.
Having to do that, being able to do that. But then you miss everything else at the base, you know, and all your friends and what's going on back there. So
how about when you had both your kids, what was that like? Did you enjoy having, you know, little kids with presents in the tree and all that?
Oh yeah, they were always fun, you know, the excitement they have, you know, that's always fun. But it was always just the four of us. Sometimes, you know, Terry and Fernando would come over if they're in the US and not Australia. And there's later years when my brother showed up with his kids, and you know, so that was always nice.
That's great.
But I was so used to the big Christmases, and it was 79 when I went on that leave. That was the last time I saw LRH was when I went on that leave and did the family Christmas down in Australia.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's quite a contrary, you know, feeling and fact about Scientology basically celebrating Christmas, because they basically just don't treat it. You know, they're not Christian. You know, Hubbard said some terrible things about Jesus Christ and all that. They don't celebrate Hanukkah. They don't celebrate any of that stuff. But for us staff at that time, it actually was, you know, a day of relief. It was actually time that we actually got to spend together. Because even when you went on Liberty, if you went on Liberty, you know, and you got days off, you know, which was supposed to be every other week, sometimes you wouldn't see people because they were on a different, what they call watch. So like they'd be off one week and then you'd be off the next. So you never spent time together, but you could spend time together on the holidays. And so that was actually, you know, I mean, I know we're telling really great, funny stories and fun stories, but you know, those were the pleasure moments that we had at that time.
Exactly. I mean, I never had a Christmas with my mother since I was 8 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're going to have a couple special guests join us here shortly, and we hope you're going to enjoy this. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. We would appreciate it if you did. And then Janis likes to say, rock slam those likes. And also, if you have any questions or comments, please mention them down below. And you can buy us a coffee. Donations always appreciated. But in just a few minutes here, we're going to have two special guests join us. And wish you all a Merry Christmas. So with that said, Janis, we're going to go ahead and bring in our guests, okay?
Okay, let's do that.
All right. 2, 1. Welcome back. We've got our special guests here. Janis, you want to introduce them?
Yes, I am here with my lovely daughter, Erin, and my granddaughter, Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth. Hi. Can you wave to the camera, Elizabeth?
It's a wave. There we go.
That's great, great, great. And so are you all ready for Christmas, Elizabeth?
Are you ready for Christmas?
Yeah.
Did you write a letter to Santa?
Yes.
Yeah, he knows
you did?
Mm-hmm. We mailed it off at the post office and everything.
What did you want? What did you ask for Christmas?
Yeah.
She wants a scooter.
Yeah, and
oh, good. A scooter, huh? That's pretty cool.
Can you sing Jingle Bells?
I don't think he knows that song. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Does she know the words?
She doesn't know the words, no.
She doesn't know the words
but
yet.
We'll learn some this Christmas, huh? Do you want to learn Christmas songs this Christmas?
No.
No, just the pancake song.
So Erin, what will you do with Elizabeth for Christmas this year? What are your plans?
I'm going to be with my mom and some good friends and their children, and we're going to just go to some local events and have some fun.
That's great. That's great. And this is not your first Christmas with Elizabeth, so I'm sure it's been a lot of fun with a toddler. And now she's what, 3 years old?
Yeah, almost 4. So
almost 4. Wow.
More than ever before. She was always pretty young. in
Now she
previous
has,
ones.
yeah, more understanding of what's happening.
Hey, Janis, have you got that hat for Aaron?
Say it again.
The hat? Do you have the hat for Aaron? She was playing with it.
Oh,
yeah.
the one that Elizabeth had on.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I bet for Elizabeth, yeah.
There we go. Are you a sea captain?
Yes.
She's a sea captain, but not a Sea Org member. Yeah, no, we're not doing
Yeah,
that.
never to be a Sea Org member.
No, just a sea captain.
Well, Aaron, we were talking.
You'll pay him $4 for what?
Aaron, our videos about, we were telling stories about our Christmases as kids and also when we were in Scientology. But also, one of the things that we wanted to mention is that, Scientology does not believe in Jesus Christ and the birth of Christ. And so they don't really celebrate that. So they really celebrate just being together and having fun and that type of thing. And that's what's important to us now, too, is being with family and friends and all that. And of course, those who believe in Jesus Christ and are Christian, it's an important holiday for them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of similar growing up. We participated, but it wasn't about the faith aspect. It was more just about being with people and being together and enjoying each other.
But Aaron used to be part of a singing group. So every Christmas from when you were 11 years old to 18, every year she sang at local casinos, hotels. Plus, we actually traveled to Washington, D.C., where she sang a few times in the White House and in at the Hill, the Capitol, for some senators. Harry Reid was big on the Young Entertainers, which was the group Aaron was part of. He was friends with the husband of Aaron's singing coach because they'd been in the gaming board together. So he would have them come and put on different events around Washington, D.C. So that was actually a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, most Christmases I was in costumes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, Christmas is music is very important to Christmas too. I love it every year. I listen to it. It just brings back memories, and it just reminds you of the fun times and the fellowship and being together with other people. It's just great.
Yeah. I know most Christmas songs by now. I've sung them all over the place.
Not like your mother.
Well, anyway, we just wanted to wish everybody, all of our viewers, a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Holidays. For me, I just want to say we really appreciate everybody watching our channel and subscribing. And Janis, do you have anything you want to say to our viewers as well?
Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Christmas.
Yes, Happy Christmas, like they say in Australia.
And we'll be back after Christmas for a few more shows before the new year.
Exactly. Does Elizabeth want to say goodbye before we end off?
Do you want to
here?
say goodbye, honey? Bye. There you have
Bye.
it.
That's what she said. Okay. Well, until next time, as she runs out the door, we'll see everybody soon. Okay. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.